What's going on, everybody? Cullen Gandy here, and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't seen me before, what I like to talk about is personal and specifically mortgage finance and how you can use these two to really better your future financial situation. And by extension, usually your psychological situation, because more money doesn't actually necessarily mean more problems. It usually means less problems. For those of you who have seen some of my videos, I want to welcome you back to my channel as well, and thank you for supporting me and following me after all of my cancer diagnosis with testicular cancer. It looks like for now everything looks like it's in the clear, which is fantastic. So we're going to just keep that energy flowing, keep the positivity going forward. Today I want to give a shout out to one of my people who I've been consulting in the past month, New Fam, and talk about a really important aspect of what it is like to work as a new mortgage loan originator, and that is what happens when you come up against a lot of obstacles. Now, what do I mean by obstacles? I mean, you're putting out calls and you're not getting people answering, which, is just part of the job. But also when you get a hold of people, keeping them on the phone, getting them to a place mentally where they're going to be able to be conducive to close on a deal with you. Now, me and Miss Fam talked at length about some of these issues because she was feeling a little discouraged that, she would sit down, make 50 calls, maybe get 2 people answering, and both of them telling her that they're really not that interested and not to call her again. And she was like, Cullen, what do I do when I call somebody and they just really don't want to talk to me? This is the single thing that separates the salesperson from the non-salesperson. A normal, well-adjusted individual, unlike me and many of my salesmen and women compatriots, would try to accommodate someone if they feel like they're getting a little bit of emotional pushback on something that they're doing or saying. I mean, think about it. Emotionally, in polite society, if somebody is telling you that they don't want something, that they're not interested in something, maybe their body language is telling you that, maybe their actual words are telling you that, their tone of voice is telling you that, your first inclination is going to be to just accommodate them, to let them have whatever they want. In this case, let them not speak on the phone with you and let them not close the deal with you. You, as a salesperson, are going to have to fight this inclination with every bit of muster that you can in your whole body, right? Because your job as a salesperson is to impose on that person the importance of whatever the product is and to make sure that they know how important it is to close on that deal and hopefully close on that deal as soon as possible, or it could evaporate. But before we go over each individual objective and problem that she was having on her first weeks as an MLO working for a broker, I want to take you through all of the things that you need to line up as a new MLO in order to set yourself up for the kind of success that you want to see. The first thing that she was having a lot of problems with is that she would get a lot of leads in from her broker partner and that she would just be making calls. And so the first thing you want to know, at least if I'm the MLO in question, is where are all these leads coming from? How old are these leads, right? And what do these leads generally want? How relevant are these leads, right? Where do they come from? Because if you do not know where the leads are coming from, how many other people might have touched these leads, and how old they are, right? If you don't know, some sort of semblance of how easy it's going to be to close on these leads, then your very best thing to do is to treat these leads like what's called aged leads or cold leads, right? And how you're going to be approaching a cold lead is a lot different than how you're probably going to be approaching a warm lead, which is somebody that has just filled in an application, maybe online somewhere, and is looking for a deal that they can close on right now. This was the issue with Miss Fam, right? She made a lot of calls. She didn't really know the situation of these leads, right? And so she would call them. She would engage with a couple of them, and they seemed a little bit befuddled that they got the call, right? That they received a call from her. And so the approach that she was trying to take already was kind of set up for a little bit of failure, right? One thing that it's important to note, right? It's easy to say it on the internet. It's easy for me to say it, but you do have to sit down and make 50 to 100 calls a day in order to get a response from, 4 to 10 people. It's not uncommon to make 50 calls and have maybe 1 or 2 people pick up. That is a good day. So if you get those 2 people, make sure to milk those 2 people for as much as you can get out of them, right? Because you might not get another pickup for the rest of the day. So she was making calls on leads, right? She didn't know where the leads come from. The first thing is Ask the broker, hey, establish where these leads are coming from. How old are these leads? How aged are most of the leads in general? And if anybody's else been touching them, because if she's just started working for this broker, chances are he's just giving you bottom of the barrel leads or leads that he's just been going over and wants you to troll through them. If that's the case, you want to approach these leads as if they were cold, like I said, which means that you go and you say, I'm calling you because we did get some interest from you at a certain point on a mortgage, whatever the specifications of the mortgage they were asking for. But I just had something across my desk that is probably the best I've ever seen in my career. It's around the lowest rates that I've seen. If I could just get a second of your time, let's go over these. As opposed to approaching them specifically for the profile that they might have applied for, depending on whether that was today or 6 months ago, they might have already closed on that. So you need to approach them like there's something new, there's something novel that they haven't seen yet, and something that might not even know that they need yet. So this brings you to the first major hurdle in any sales call, which is the introduction, or what I like to call the initial client alignment phase. Now this phase shouldn't be any longer than, I would say, maybe 10 to 20 seconds. And this is the part of the call that's going to endear you or line you up with the client that you're trying to reach. One thing that I noticed that she was doing is she would speak very tentatively in this part, and she would speak very clinically. Now, in many cases, in many states, there's a reason, compliance-wise, why you would need to do this. For example, at InterFirst, where I was working, I would have to say, is this full name of person from this area, right? And that's sort of clinical, sort of cold, right? What I like to do in those early moments of the call is make myself as endearable to the client as I can, right? Somebody who is a friend that the client didn't even know that they've had their whole life. So when you're calling, I like to address them by their first name. I like to address them with confidence and like there's already rapport there, right? So I call, say, hey James, this is Cullen. I'm just getting back to you about your mortgage inquiry that you sent in. I just wanted you to know that there's something that came across my desk today. It's fantastic, and if you just have a few minutes, I'd like to go over these with you. Instead of, hey, is this James Smith? He's gonna say yes or no. Already at this point, if you're asking who it is and you just called them, it's not a great look, right? It's not the look that you want when you're receiving a phone call, right? You already picked up, but you're already kind of skeptical even when somebody calls on the phone, right? If we're being honest. Try to break those cold barriers. You can always go back around to finish your compliance stuff after. So what you can do is I'll say, hey James, this is Cullen Gandy over at InterFirst. I'll just get back to you about this mortgage thing. Let's just go over these for a few seconds. If you can sort of flip them in that initial part, then you can go back and say, all right, I just got to take care of this stuff. Just make sure this is James Smith. This is what you want. That's where you live, right? So that way, you already sort of endear yourself to the client. You've aligned yourself with the client. But then you can take care of all the, the compliance and all of the technical specifications of the kind of loan that they might need or want. Or if it's a very cold call, you can sort of give them an idea of what they might not even know that they want yet. Now, the really big hurdle is when you call them, you sort of try to get in with them and they shut you down. So this is one of the obstacles that Miss Pham was having a lot of issues with. She'd call the client, they'd pick up, and they would say things like, we're not interested, please put us on the do not call list, your internal list, I don't want to hear from you anymore, I'm not in the market for a mortgage. Now this is a very unique situation because the client has given you the outcome. So the outcome is already set, right? So everything else is sort of ancillary, right? You have free reign in that call because after you hang up the call, you have to put them on the do not call list. So sort of be as aggressive as you can be within the bounds of the law. So if they say, hey, look, I'm really not interested, put it on the do not call list or whatever it is, you just stop them in there. It's like, hey, look, yeah, no, I totally understand we're all busy, but I just received this quote. A lot of people with the 740, if you can qualify, I'm getting like 2.75. I'm getting 2.625. Does that sound really good for a 30-year? I mean, I've been here for 10 years. I'd love to go over with you with this profile if I can, just for a few minutes. Hey, this might be something that could save you up to $10,000, $20,000 if you got a $300,000 mortgage. That can change people's mind. Or you can be really direct. I had a mortgage loan originator in my company. Once, when they told him to put me on the do not call list, he's like, I'll do that, but before I do that, you have to listen to my rate. It's 2.65 for a 30-year traditional. And the client was like, Really? You know, 2.65. He ended up closing that deal because if you're not imposing upon the client, if you're not putting it yourself out there, if you're not using confidence, if you're not pushing back on a client that's giving you nothing, then the outcome is set. You're going to get nothing. So don't be afraid to push back on the client. If the client doesn't want it, if the client doesn't want it enough, I should say, then hey, you know, it's no different than a call that didn't pick up. So try to capitalize on these clients while you have them on the phone. Another major hurdle is sort of a self-imposed hurdle with a lot of new mortgage loan originators, and that is the tendency to let people off of the phone once you feel like you've locked things up. If you get somebody on the line, right, and they show any kind of interest, right, and you have the capacity to have them go through the entire application process into processing, maybe even into underwriting right there on the phone, let them take you as far as they will let you. If they'll let you, go through the whole application process online, or if you can fax them the dang thing, while you're talking to them on the phone and have them fill it out and email it back all on the phone, let them do it, right? Because you can hold on to them for that whole period and make sure that that initial application, that initial first kind of closing that you need is capitalized on, especially if you're getting fat commissions from like brokers who usually get like yield spread premium. If you're getting a big commission, there's no reason to get off the phone with a willing client or with a willing customer. If you're part of the outfits that are larger online, more transactional, maybe you don't want to spend too much time on the phone with these folks. But if if you get a fat commission on a purchase that's $500,000, no reason you need to be getting off the phone and making more calls, right? This is your moneymaker. And then one of the final observations that I made when I was talking to my very intelligent, very cool consult, Miss Pham, was that she just hadn't figured out how to structure her initial call pitch. What you want to do, especially me coming from an acting and an opera background, is that I would generally make up the beginnings or the bare bones or the outline of a pitch, and I would practice it. Why? Why do you want to practice it? Well, when you say what you're trying to say, you want to sound authoritative. That is to say that people want to believe that you're an authority on whatever subject that you're speaking. You want to be able to elucidate issues. That means that you want to say something, but you want to say it confidently and intelligently and precisely so that they understand just how much money they may be getting back or how the product works. And then finally, you just really want to say something with confidence. And you can't do that if you don't really know what it is that you're going to say ahead of time, right? Unless you're just a really, really well-practiced orator. Go ahead and practice it, because if you say it with confidence, if you're passionate about whatever it is that you're speaking and you know how to talk about it and you know how to become the authority on it, then you're probably going to get the sale over somebody who doesn't do that, right? Another sort of caveat to that is that it's okay at times, as long as you're not deceptive towards people, to use BS. So I'll use little taglines and things like, this is one of the best things that I've seen in my entire career. Back in the day, back in 2 decades ago, the rates were doing this. Of course, I've only been working in the industry for about 2 years, So, they don't need to know that, but that goes a long way towards establishing that authoritative feel, that feel like you're working with somebody who knows this industry, who's connected to this industry, and who's going to take care of my mortgage the way it needs to be taken care of. Guys, I hope some of the information from this consult has really helped, especially you guys who've been working in the industry for like less than a few months and are just sort of getting your bearings, because it's really important to take these key concepts and take them right into your initial calls, okay? And as always, I'll make myself available to you if you need a consult yourself, free of charge for the moment. Just let me know in my email, which is on the landing page of this channel. And as always, I will see you in the next one, hopefully when we're a little bit happier and a little bit richer. Peace, guys.